Hello and welcome to the Women's Show here on Four Lads Had a Dream. My name's Andrew and I'm joined tonight by just one of my very favourite podders, Stevie. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, mate. Thanks for joining us. A late stand-in, but I couldn't have had a better one, so I really appreciate you joining us.
That's all right. We are obviously going to talk about the kind of general state of the women's team, but I think it's probably worth touching on the Rangers news that came out today as well. Just briefly, the news that Nils Koppen has been appointed the technical director of Rangers Football Club. So not exactly an unknown name to us, promoting from within again. We've seen in the past how that's worked out very well for us, obviously. I think it's fair to say the news has not gone down perfectly, and I don't think it's anything particularly against Nils Koppen either. He's only been in the job for a few months, so we didn't really have a position to judge him on. I think it's more the concern that it's again another promotion internally, a person who's never done the job before, being placed into the role, and at a really crucial time for us as well. We're aware that there needs to be a rebuild and almost restructuring of our football department right now, to improve things and make it better. An appointment from internally is not the most inspiring thing to see, especially when, by all accounts, it's going to be a dual role. He was going to be doing the technical director as well as his current role. So, yeah, I mean, I think you can probably intimate my thoughts on it, Stevie. But yeah, what was your kind of reaction to the news?
Surprise. It's a real surprise, and I can't get away from the fact that I keep thinking it's all a bit unnecessary. Why announce this at this moment in time? Everybody's answer to it is going to be, we don't have a CEO and we don't have a chairman, so what's the point? How do we know that they're going to want him in that role, etc., etc.? So it just immediately throws up some questions for us. So that's okay. Put that to the side. He knows the club because he's been here a bit. When he first came here, he was a scout at PSV. He comes with a good track record. He was involved in quite a number of really good deals for PSV, selling, buying really well, etc. And that's good. We know that. But he's then already been promoted up to being head of recruitment at us. So it's quite a step. So he had a lot to kind of gather on from that. He's had one transfer window, of which we don't know how successful that is. On the one hand, you've got Yefty and Barron. On the other hand, you've got Cortez and Proper. So everybody's still a bit uneasy about just how well he is performing in the role, which I don't think is unfair. And we would have liked, I think, as a fan base, a bit more time to see how that progressed. But we haven't been allowed that, because immediately he's been given another bump, a bump in responsibility, a bump in, he's now in charge of the medical department and everything else. And how much from a scout a year ago is he going to know? So these are valid questions, I think. I don't think it's a Nils Koppen issue. I think, as you said, it's a board issue and we don't trust them. I think from the outpouring of comments, I think that's clear. And I think it's just another one where I would have rather, see, for example, I know a lot of people didn't like it, but James Bisgrove was with Rangers commercially for 3-4 years before he then got bumped up. And we saw a platform of progression in the commercial department, which allowed us to say, okay, we understand it. Neil Coppen's been here 10 minutes. And he's already been bumped to a technical director's position. As I said, the worry for most people is this time last year he was a scout with PSV. So there's huge question marks, I think. Sometimes somebody said to me as well this morning, it feels a wee bit like with this board and John Gilligan's comments on the manager and that, we trust him, we love him, and he talks so well and this, that, and everything else. And it feels just a wee bit like, don't back down, double down. And it feels a wee bit like we're doing this again. And I can't help but feel a little bit nervous by this. That's only my thoughts on it. I'm going to give him the same chance. But most fans have already made up their mind, and there's a lot of anger about the running of this football club. There's no point in getting away with it. I don't think anyone in the comments this morning on social media went, well done, Rangers, is a good appointment. Out of 270 odd comments, I've yet to see one positive one.
I mean, I did see a few that were saying, good job, Rangers, well done, but I think they may have been sarcastic, So
yeah, I'm not sure they were quite the way that we're portraying them, that's for sure. So yeah, it's a surprising one, Andrew, and I just can't help but feel it's all a wee bit unnecessary, especially at this moment in time. He could have quite easily sat and sat on this for a couple of months. Chairman, CEO come in, and then they say it would have been a whole lot more well received, I think, potentially than it is right now, where people are just going, "Why are we doing this?"
Yeah.
So it's one.
Yeah, like you say, I mean, it's the kind of thing where whatever the news is, it's going to confirm your prior assumptions about it anyway. Much like trying to analyze election results. The reason why we lost, obviously, is because of all the things that I believed beforehand, and this just proves it. It's just confirming your assumptions anyway. And the problem is Rangers are following the same pattern recently in terms of these appointments, and we've seen the results of it. So that's why I'd say, yeah, the trust is not quite there as far as Rangers go, and the Rangers board. But that's not what we're here to talk about, Stevie. We're going to talk about the women's team, how they've been doing recently, and also just our immediate reaction to the quite massive Old Firm victory that they got this past weekend. I think in terms of how the women have performed, and this is from my side. I'm not a dedicated watcher of the women's team. I'll tune in for some of the bigger games, like the Old Firm, especially in a weekend where there wasn't any other football on that I thought was worth watching. So yeah, I mean that was good to see. But I mean, we can pull up the table and have a little look see at that, and we're not sitting where we'd like to be right now, but we are doing better than the men's team. So that is good, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think we actually are doing quite well in terms of the league. It's a difficult one. Those that watch the women regularly know that it's more or less a three-horse race: Glasgow City, Rangers, Celtic. But in third or fourth, many people will see Hearts and Hibs popping up now. Hearts have already beaten Celtic this season. Hibs have drawn with us this season already. So it's an interesting little dynamic. And what they've done is they've actually started taking points off everybody else. They're taking points off each other, and it's made it all come in just slightly. Now, the reason why the weekend was so big, Andrew, is because Rangers have had Hearts this season already. They beat them 2-0 away, which was a good result. They had Glasgow City at Ibrox, and it was 1-0, a late kind of equaliser from Rio Hardy. And that was a difficult performance. And then Hibs away, again, difficult performance, really dreadful conditions. And a day that we got beat 1-0 in the end by Kilmarnock. We went to Hibs and drew 1-1 at Meadowbank. Again, late equaliser by Rio Hardy. Hibs had missed a penalty just 2 minutes before it as well. So we'll come on to talk about those kind of moments in both games. And then Celtic at home in the last game, the night that we played Lyon, we were 2-0 up. Lost 2 dreadful late equalisers, or 2 late goals rather than a late equaliser. So there's real pressure on the team going into Sunday's Old Firm match. Could they handle it? Do they have the ability to stand up to the pressure? Do they win big games? All of these things were getting thrown at the team, and I think they stood up to it very well, and they answered quite a few questions. But that was a huge win on Sunday, Andrew. A huge win, and we shouldn't downplay it. We could have ended up, had we not have got that 3 points, we could have ended up being, behind Celtic again, chasing Glasgow City again. We could have been 4 behind City, but the way it is at the moment, we have City coming up just in a few weeks' time, and a chance again to go ahead of them. So, yeah, Glasgow City have probably been the surprise for people watching. They've been the most steady. They were beaten by Celtic early on. They've drawn with us. That's their only 2 kind of outings against us. They've beaten Hearts and Hibs quite easily. I think I seen they beat Hibs just a couple of weeks ago 3-0. So they are a good side. Big, powerful striker up front that causes a lot of problems. She's really quite good. She caused us no end of problems at Ibrox, that's for sure. And yeah, so it's tight. Joe Potter, the women's manager, said it was going to be tight. She predicted this. She predicted Hearts and Hibs to be in the mix as well, right at the season start. And then again, similarly, just a few weeks ago after Glasgow City draw. So it surprised me, and it might surprise others, but I don't think it surprised those within the women's game just how close it is.
No, for sure. I think from my perspective, someone who's less knowledgeable, let's say, about the women's game. Before us and Celtic went pro, it was Glasgow City's, to
Yes.
lose, basically.
Mhm.
They'd done something like 13 in a row or something insane like that. We both go pro and it becomes a more competitive race, but it's still amongst those three. So the fact that we're seeing more teams come into the mix now, that's a good thing for the league. It's always hilarious when we see, the women really struggle today. They only beat Motherwell at 11-0 or something like that. But still nice to see, obviously. But the fact that the league is becoming more competitive is only a good thing, right? Because it just helps make it look much more of a serious competition.
I would much rather go and see us in really competitive games and difficult games where, or go and see us beat Montrose 10-2 in a game where you learn absolutely nothing. It's a bit of a shame because some of these teams, I seen them beat Motherwell, I think 8-1 in the cup a couple of weeks ago as well. Motherwell had like young girls coming on 15, 16 and stuff, playing against pro, girls at school coming on play against pro teams. So I admire what they're trying to do. So having Hibs and Hearts this season become pro and kind of push up and stuff like that has been great as well. So, more power to the league. It makes the league more kind of competitive in the sense that if you're behind a team, there's more opportunities for them to take points off each other and things like that. So no, it's definitely been welcomed. And, the more competitive it gets, the better it is for us as well. So it's been already a more enjoyable kind of league, even though we have the 3 draws, which were disappointing. I think we answered quite a lot of questions from Sunday's result, which is an away game. They go ahead, get pegged back, go ahead, get pegged back again, but then still have the mental strength to go and win it afterwards, I think goes a lot for us.
Yeah, it's that resiliency, right? That mental strength to
Absolutely.
bounce back those 3 times. And yeah, let's dig into the Old Firm game. So as you say, we had an excellent vlog from yourself and Shona, and Kermit the Frog as well,
Yeah.
which was good to see. And yeah, I mean, I think, folks, if you haven't seen it, do go back and watch it because you guys perfectly capture the drama of that game. We see the highs and lows, if you like, of constantly getting knocked back and eventually come through to win it with a cracking goal as well.
Yeah.
Really, really excellent strike. But before we go to that, I want to touch on Jenna Five's performance as well, because I understand she has come in for a bit of criticism seasons past. And I mean, women's goalkeeping in general has generally been, let's say an element of humour. I think some of that's down to the size of the goals, but it is just what it is. And this is all an area that's unfamiliar to me, being 6'2". Stevie, I know it's going to be a bit more familiar to yourself, being slightly height deficient on your side. But I think it was worthwhile pointing out her performance in the Old Firm game because she pulled off a couple of really impressive saves. In general, not as a straight comparison between the men and women. It's just by itself a really, really good performance and keeps Rangers in that game, which was on a knife edge for a lot of the time. So I think that's well worth pointing out.
Yeah, so Jenna didn't start as number 1. Jenna's third choice for Scotland at the moment, and she has been kind of involved. And Jenna, I think, in seasons by those that go to women's game will probably agree that she is more than capable of consistently being decent. But she has an element of her game that she will make a mistake, particularly with the ball at her feet. And I remember a couple of times last season away to Aberdeen, 2-0 up, she makes a mistake with her feet, and then it's 2-1, and we're kind of hanging on up there. So that becomes a bit of a kind of difficult moment. She's prone to 1 or 2 mistakes, but she never started as number 1 this year. Vicky Essen did, New Zealand number 1. She's been quite steady, and then had a difficult performance against Celtic. Jenna comes in Glasgow City at Ibrox and makes right on half time makes an incredible save. Andrew, ball across face goal. It's a tap in, and she manages to spread herself and somehow blocks and then holds it and keeps it out. And it really was a world class save. That was 2-0, and you're done and you're finished. She kept us in it, and then Hibs away touched on this slightly. She saved a penalty to her right, just with 2 or 3 minutes left. That would have been 2-0 dead and buried, and we go up the field basically 90 seconds later and equalise. So she's got a huge part in that. And then fast forward to Sunday's game, we take the lead at 3-2, Lawton, I think it is for Celtic, their right back, plays a 1-2 with Kavanagh. She's through, takes on defender and pokes it right in the corner, and it was in all the way. And Jenna manages to get over and get a firm hand, not only to push it away, but she doesn't push it out. She's got strong enough wrist to push it behind. So, I asked the manager about it after Glasgow City, and she said that Jenna was the new number one and she would keep her position. And I think when you get a big moment like that, it really does prove that the decision for her to be that is completely justified. But she's been great, Andrew. She's well worthy of praise recently. For those watching and go regularly will probably agree. Vic's done really well. Had a poor Old Firm game. I'm not sure if we are entirely satisfied with how she did with both goals. So she's come out of that team, and I think that Jenna's been excellent. She's more than grabbed her opportunity. She said to me after the Hibs game away from home, which unfortunately I couldn't reproduce the interview because it was just over a minute and a half, and she was almost getting blown away at the time. The wind that day was incredible, and there was no sound quality. But she told me at the time, absolutely loves the club, supports the club, wants to be here, wants to play for this club. So she's more than taken her opportunity, and she was great at the weekend. A lot of good moments, but that save certainly helped the Rangers win the 3 points. That's for sure.
Excellent. Let's look at up front now. Rio Hardy scoring big goals again. I know she's been making a habit of that. I think she's had an impressive record, but I think that still pales in comparison to Katie Wilkinson, who's been scoring like 5 goals a game now. I think just for kicks, like double hat tricks and all this kind of nonsense. I'm exaggerating, but not much. She's been doing.
No, she's got 5 hat tricks, Katie Wilkinson. So
yeah.
the kind of battle to be her partner, Andrew, is one that's has kind of been swapped about a bit, and most people again who follow the team will know Rio Hardy and Kirsty Howitt were amazing last year. Rio getting, I think, round about 30 goals up until we must be up until I think February time, and then Kirsty Howitt got a really bad injury. She was out for months, and it knocked Rio because all of a sudden she was having to carry the team up front. She didn't have a familiar partner. She kind of hit the wall a wee bit, which caused issues, and it was really difficult for her to hit her stride again this season. She's been a slow starter. She's not been first choice. It's been Wilco and Kirsty Howitt. That hasn't really worked as a dynamic. And what I mean by that is Rio's come off the bench. She started some games, but Wilkinson's been banging them in. So she's got a hat trick 5 times. So that shows you. And I think she's up now to, if I'm right, she's round about 22, 23 goals, including obviously her penalty there. She had a penalty in the last Old Firm as well. So she's scoring in big games, which you want. And she's more, I would say she's more an out-and-out finisher. She's like a poacher almost. She sits around the box, around the penalty spot, doesn't add much else. She's quite limited, dare I say it. And that sounds ridiculous from somebody that scored so many goals, but her link up and all that's not the levels of others. And I think that's meant that she needs a forward around her, and that's down to maybe Howitt and Hardy. And what's happened is Hardy's kind of found herself out of the team, but she came in against Glasgow City, changed the game, equalised. She should have won it, she'll tell you herself. Equalised against Hibs away from a free kick. It comes out, she smacks in the rebound. And then, obviously, first couple of minutes at the weekend, she's there again to take more shots. The shot takes a wicked deflection and loops in. Don't shoot, you don't score. Another big goal from her. So, 3 games this season, 3 really big goals, and that's what you want when you're it's all right. And this is where it becomes a wee bit silly, because you can score 8 against Motherwell and 10 against Montrose and 14, I think, away to Aberdeen on the opening day of the season. And everybody scores, and that's not an issue. That's brilliant. Great. The tight games, the Hearts, the Hibs, the Celtic, Glasgow City games are where you're going to be judged. They're the ones where you need to score goals. And Hardy and Wilkinson, to be fair, have kind of pitched in. Kirsty Howitt's been on the periphery. Jane Ross, returning from a really bad injury, scored some goals. But I think there's a recognition now that Jane is down the pecking order to kind of 4th choice. So, these are the big games, and Rio's certainly done it as with regards to her praise, and and hard deserving of the kind of accolades lately, then definitely she stepped up at really big moments, Andrew. So more than worthy of it.
For sure. And yeah, we don't need to look even outside Rangers to know how crucial a good, reliable finisher is. So not going to be taking anything away from that either, for sure. Obviously, we want to talk about Chelsea Cornet making her return as well. I mean, fantastic to see that coming back in the old firm after a long injury layoff and scoring a phenomenal goal. Really quite special, just half volley, straight over the keeper, right at the death as well. So, hilarious objectively as well to beat the other side of the city in that manner. Yeah, fantastic to see her coming back. And I mean, we were going through this and talking about all these players who are coming back from injury layoffs here, and I'm starting to think that this curse that we have within the men's team is starting to spread. So I'm a bit worried about that. Nonetheless, though, it's still great to see Chelsea come back and get the winner there.
Yeah, I actually spoke to her at the end of the game, so I'm wondering now, Andrew, while we're blethering, if I can quickly transfer that onto my phone. No, I can't. Never mind. I'd put it up on social media. It was on, everybody go and check that. It was on our socials. We spoke to her after the game. Chelsea, listen, is absolutely lovely. She's the nicest girl. A lot of time for her. She suffered a really bad injury, 12 weeks out. And I've seen her a couple of times up at the training ground, and she's saying she wants to be back and wants to be back for this game. And she made it. And the dynamic in the midfield with her is so much different. She's box to box. And we miss that because Liv McLaughlin is the ball winner, so she wins the ball and passes it off. She's almost like the equivalent of a kind of Nico Raskin in the men's team, whereas Chelsea Cornet's more of a Connor Barron number 8 style, wins the ball but box to box,
Sure.
and that leaves your 10 to kind of float about. The women play the exact same way as the men, so the dynamic in there with Chelsea's return, Kirsty McLean returning from injury, Liv and Chelsea is really exciting for the women's team. It's by far the strongest midfield in the country. 3 cracking players, 3 internationals as well. Liv getting international recognition with England under 23s, I think, recently. So, as a young lioness, she's great. She's cracking. And Chelsea, she's such a great attitude. She's a quick healer. I think she was due to be out the rest of the year and she's back. But for her to have that moment, incredible bit of skill, not only takes a touch, flips it over the head, and then next touch is just to volley it into the goal, Andrew. So, well done to her. I am looking forward to seeing her back because I expect now we'll get a bit more kind of consistency in selection. I think she'll make it back in the first team and she'll stay there. And I would expect Rangers to be in a position of strength for the next couple of months until we break for January for the winter shutdown. So that happens just, I think, before January. And the girls have got 3 weeks off. I am expecting Rangers to go on a consistent run now. Kirsty's back, Chelsea's back, firing up front, just beating Celtic. I think we'll hit the, how do we put this? I think we'll hit the consistency now and really charge on. So I think if you look at the league table, which we had up earlier, we're quite in a comfortable position at the moment, but we want a consistency now. You really want 5 or 6 games consistently to go on that run. They're through to the League Cup semi-final. They can park that as well. So they'll take on Celtic, I think, mid-January in that one when they come back. So, there's a lot of things to play for, but they've got City in a couple of weeks. So that's your top of the table clash, which I believe is at home because I believe the first game was away, but they swapped it to a home venue. So I'm not sure. Perhaps it might be we're away in this one or we're away next one twice. I'm not quite sure. Play them 4 times, obviously. So we are scheduled to be home. It might be that switched. I'll need to double check that. But we do play City in a few weeks. So there's the opportunity there. Even if it's at Petershill where they play, we beat them there 2-0 last season. So, Andrew, it's I would say that the win at the weekend answered a lot of big questions, not only for the team, but for the manager. And now they're in a really good position to really kick on. Injuries returning, Chelsea, Kirsty, etc. I think it's game on now for Rangers, and they should be looking to put their foot in the accelerator a wee bit. Start with Hibs at home on Sunday, which won't be easy, but again, another opportunity to put a marker down and move away.
Yeah, and like you said, that Glasgow City game coming up is going to be must win as well. I think a lot of fans will look at the investment into the women's team and will be wanting to see more success. And in fairness to them, they've had more success than the men's team have had in recent years. So I think it's still winning the league is the big thing. And I think there was a lot of frustration with how close the league was at points during last season. And it just slipped away towards the end there. So I'm looking forward to keeping up to date with it, and we'll of course be covering all of it over here on Four Lads as well. Everything Rangers, for sure.
Yeah, we'll next show I think will just be as they break for the winter break, so we'll know exactly where we are. We'll cover the matches where we can with match day vlogs and things. It keeps us speaking to the manager, keeps us speaking to the players, etc. as well. So we'll try and do that, and of course you can follow them all on the official channel as well, which I would encourage you to do. But Andrew, thank you for stepping in.
Of course,
it's been much appreciated, and hosting for us. We had a little bit of a change of schedule, but I hope people enjoy it nonetheless. Andrew, thank you very much.
It's quite a pleasure to be here, Stevie. Always nice.
Skiving from his work, ladies and gentlemen, or taking a break from his work.
I'm in an official meeting, Stevie. I don't know what you're talking about. This is very important work I'm doing
here. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Keep up to date with all our content. Please like, subscribe on all our socials, and we thank you for joining us.
Four Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clyde Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited, and CSD Air Conditioning, along with Art of Gold. Thank you for listening or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.